I didn't expect them to actually re-release Persona 4 Golden before this video. But they did. Oh, I'm happy for that. It's just annoying now that they had to do it right before I was going to do my Persona 1 review. Joy. Well, in any case, Persona. It's one of my favorite series of all time. Hell, Persona 4 is one of my favorite games of all time. And honestly, I'm glad it's finally getting the recognition it deserves. But in any case, today we are talking about the first game in the franchise. And honestly, God, I'm amazed how the series got past this one. But let's save that for when we get into the review. So this is Persona 1. Or Megami Inbanroku Persona. The name meant to be implying a spin-off. I can't get out of this. I have to go the other way.
The game begins us in a classroom at St. Hemmelin. God, that's a stupid name. Even after all these times of actually playing it, that name is still stupid. But I think anyone in the comment section can actually find a worse name to name a school. But in any case, we are watching some kids in the room actually about to do the Persona game. I don't know how they'll be able to do that unless they got a brand new copy of the OG. Oh wait, my bad. It's some sort of parlor trick, I think, trying to summon a being that will tell you your future.
Though it should be noted the demon summoning things happening in the next city and the next school. God, people, and that was a year ago! God, can't keep things straight.
What's worse is that last part wasn't actually a joke. This game takes place in the same timeline as it. And I have actually played, and the female character is canon, which is pretty odd because that doesn't usually happen much. The game is alright, but harder for new players to get into without a guide. Sure, there's no modern guide, but you can work fine with old translation guides, which are fine enough. I do have to apologize that I'm going to do a lot of side noting, as it's kind of important yet unimportant for the later games. Because I do want to talk about the duology, but it's unimportant because a lot of times, the newer Persona games don't really give a dang about these, like, at all. The other thing I should have mentioned right now is that the version I chose, that being between the OG PS1 or the PSP remake.
I went with the PSP version, and I have a very simple reason. One thing that's really big for me is being accurate. If you're not, I'm not going to play you. I really want to play that game, but it's not good because it's not accurate. In fact, it at times makes it a point not to be accurate, for no adequate reason. And not only that, it also has translation issues, the original. For whatever reason, they thought it was a good idea to not accurately translate all the names, thus losing a lot of mythological meanings. Seriously, I will never play a game with a bad translation or a bad importing again.
There are also more balance issues that were even solved, but also unsolved. It's complicated. For whatever reason, the OG PS1 decided to make it all-American for us Westerners because, we can't take the idea that this is another country that has its own things and thinks we couldn't get it. Because Americans are stupid, I'm guessing. That's my always takeaway from it, because if it's not that, what the hell are you changing it for? In any case. Basically making money more plentiful due to changing yen into dollars, which causes a weird issue with money. It's about making XP harder to get, but that will always be confusing. However, the PSP version's issues are really confusing too. The first one being the changing of music for no adequate reason. Seriously, the music in the original was really damn good. So is the new music too, just to be clear, but it just doesn't fit at all. Where we are, if you get my drift. Though I should state, again, the new music is fine, it just doesn't fit. I will say though, the boss battle theme for this version, Bloody Destiny, I really like it. It's really good. Also, one more thing for the weird changes. They also rebalanced it, but I dare say they made it a little too easier, as they made a lot more of the dungeoneering easier by making more safe spots in the game. Yeah, our safe spots are a weird bunch of trees, and I have no idea why it's here, and talking about it's just kind of weird. I looked it up and got nothing. Even my Google foo is not good enough for this. Yet, in any case, let's be clear. Choosing either version is fine. I just have my reasons, and I just really wanted to explain to you my reasons. Though there is a version I really recommend, and I'll tell you that at the end. Okay, so after tripping balls and heading to this place, I don't know where this is. Apparently this is in the realm of consciousness, but also not. It's complicated. We meet this guy called Philemon, who asks us our names, and I'll have to give the Japanese side some props for bothering to actually make an American name for the character, OGP as one. He also has a few official names. We have a name not only from the CD drama, but also from the novel. Yeah, and there's also now Tado from the manga, which I'm gonna call him as that's his official name, but there's also Hey You, but that's a whole other thing altogether. But that hardly matters, as I usually call my character this all the time. And no, if you're wondering why there's a U in the nickname, don't ask, I don't even know. After being told to visit a friend at the hospital, we decided to do that. But first, I gotta mention the team recruitment. See, in this game, you get to choose who is the 5th party member. And only the 5th party member for some reason. As depending on which route you're doing, it'll be dependent on who you'll be able to choose. Yeah, there are routes in this game, and again, depending on certain actions at the start of this moment, or another route for the game. However, I will need to mention this now. I won't be bothering to do the Snow Queen quest, because I'm going to assume that most players won't even bother to do that. Since it's hard to do on the first playthrough, it's actually even hard to start, since it actually requires you to do some weird things that the game would not even tell you what to do. Hell, a character on the Sebek route, Sebek? How are you supposed to pronounce this? In any case, that being Reiji. I won't bother to explain how to get him either, since that's more complicated and neededly, but you get my point. It's annoying. And yeah, that. So after a bit of traveling, getting to the hospital, we meet Maki, who is always sick and hasn't been out of the hospital for a while. And no one has actually visited her often, except Mark, who visits her after class because, you know, they keep her company, and he has a huge crush on her. But soon, tragedy strikes as she goes into this coma state thing, I'm not sure, and has to be transferred over to the ICU for some reason. Then an earthquake happens for some reason. Maybe just because it's Japan. And somehow the building is changed into this monstrosity for some godforsaken reason. After looking a bit around, we get to the front, but holy crap, it's Night of the Living Dead here, as zombies are attacking people. And it's actually killed Nanjo's butler. Oh yeah, right, you didn't know that. He's also super rich and a snout to boot. Yeah, I haven't mentioned the characters. Well, that's because I feel like I haven't gotten into the characters much due to because it feeling mostly background rather than important stuff to learn about them. Not calling the characters bad, it's just like I fairly felt I actually got to know these characters, if that makes sense. But I will go over the brief characterization of them. There's Nanjo, but I literally told you about him. Mark is the kid who likes Maki and is a semi-delinquent. There's you, but you are boring as sin, so I'm not even gonna bother to tell you anything. And Reiji, who was again later, but it's important. And not calling them bad characters, just felt they weren't there. Back on track, we get attacked by the zombies, and we are able to now actually use the powers of our personas. And this is where I actually gotta start talking about the combat. Let's just begin with the obvious, as the game is on a grid, mostly, except the exploratory parts. And placements does matter, as some attacks, mostly physical, won't land if you're not at the right spot, and thus making the most times than not a hard pass to you. You do have several options in your combat. You can use your weapons or your guns to deal damage. Where do they get these weapons? From either corpses of demons or shops that carry weapons, now that the demons are infesting the streets, even though most people aren't targeted by them? Yeah, if you want an explanation of that, good question. I would love to know that too. You could also use your persona to use skills, which are dependent on the personas themselves. Yeah, and I said persona, as in this game, the original trilogy of games, the main cast can actually hold more than one persona, and you can change them whenever you want, but will eat a turn, which can make more personas available to use and allow for more variety, but can cause issues. See, each persona has an SP cost, meaning however a persona costs is just how much any skill they use will cost. For example, if a persona has a 20 SP cost and has Bufu and Bufadine, the worst and best version of these spells, they will cost 20 regardless. Why they chose this, I'll never be for sure. So you may ask yourself, why would you want to use weapons when I can use persona? Well, that's simple. Some demons are weak to certain things, so it's an important thing to keep variety up, as some demons are not good against magic, or vice versa. So it's important to remember that. But I do have an issue with this. The number of personas you can actually get is pretty low due to the fusion system. Later on you can go to development room, which does become a mainstay for the series. This is where you can use spell cards to make new personas. How do you get those? By talking to them and letting them actually give you their spell cards, depending on what their reaction is. This is a holdover from the SMT series called Demon Negotiation, where it's a big help to recruit demons into the party. This game actually makes it, like, if I'm being quite honest, the easiest system to recruiting demons while talking to them still, because it's a lot complicated. See, in normal SMT games, you'll just get two options and try to figure out what you can and can't do in talking to certain demons, with really no idea of what options can lead you to the best idea of getting a demon. Else, the game will tell you which demons are even recruitable. Yeah, I'll get to that whenever I get to the original trilogy. This game makes it slightly easier than the mainline games by basically seeing this box up here. It'll basically tell you which type of alignment or which type of thing you need to do to help you. Basically, all demons have a sort of personality trait, where based on the type of answer you give them, that can actually change how they act. Like, for example, if you could persuade them, make Mark dance crazy, or whatever the fuck this option is. Seriously, I don't even know what it means. I looked it up, but it's kind of weird, so now you have to look it up too. However, just because you got them to being eager, the choice that allows them to actually give you their spell card, doesn't mean they'll give it to you, because you need to be a certain level, usually a little above their level. Well, usually your group has to be, which just makes it annoying. I guess I'll get to that in a bit. But the issue is these spell cards give you personas. Well, not particularly a persona, you need to still fuse them. However, here's an example of a persona that the game can give you way too early on. This is a level 88 persona, which you'll never use because, let me tell you something quickly about this game. By the point you even get half to that, you'll be nearly near the end of the game, mostly. Honestly, I never liked this in games, basically because it shows me what I can get, but I would have to work my ass off just to get anything like that. I mean, hell, you know Vishnu, the guy on the cover of the original? Yeah, he's nearly impossible, because his requirements are so ridiculous that they're not even worth it. If maybe he had some of the best spells in the game, maybe? But it's so honestly not worth it that anyone who does it, I'm calling you stupid. Seriously, why couldn't we get him like near the second to last dungeon? Kinda like the manga, where they actually just give it to him because of his character growth. Yeah, again, I'm mentioning the manga because it's actually good. Though I will say, all the personas, they look mostly cool. Though I would have liked them to be a bit bigger and clearer, but whatever. I do also want to say I like the game's art style. It has a uniqueness to it, but not too much, but you guys might do it. It's nice to look at, nothing too bad. Though I need to ask why they smothered the pixels on characters. Yeah, this happens with a lot of remasters of pixel games for some reason. They try to make it look more seamless, but it never does because it makes it look off. The game also has 3D models when dungeon crawling and also in cutscenes, which confuse me. See this cutscene right here? If you look closely, Yukino, Brown, Ayase, and Ellie, you'll notice they're hand-drawn rather than 3D, and no, I have no idea why. Speaking on dungeon crawling, I did mention this game slightly easier. Well, that's due to because this was in both games, by the way, the regenning of SP while walking in the dungeon. Thus meaning you can just basically destroy the game itself because your SP is always regenerating, thus meaning you can just use a DS spell, just heal up and not worry about it. Thus meaning any of the shop healers are mostly useless, like this smug asshole. Seriously, I don't know why he looks like that. And Trish, who appears later on in the other games, but is mostly pointless. And that's mostly all the gameplay. Yeah, I told you that all there is to it. It's really simple, but it's still fine in the end. After getting out of the hospital, we decide to go to school where something's up as the demons are on the street for whatever reason, and again, normal people aren't getting attacked for some reason. But I do need to mention one thing that's weird. So, okay, the school is kind of barricading itself, but for whatever reason, they're worried about the entrance, but not the fucking hole in the wall on the other side. I'm just saying, or are the demons just stupid? You make the call. Wait a moment, how the hell did the hole appear? So while inside, we try to make sure we get to do things that make sure that Reggie appears. Also figure out what I'm supposed to do because sometimes I forgot stuff. Seriously, this is really annoying. And then I quickly remembered to continue on the plot, we need to go through that same hole. As we actually find someone odd and energetic, Maki, who is confused about everything, as are we and the team. I say that except Mark, Nanjo, and whoever the fifth party member is. Yeah, the other team members are just now gone and won't actually appear in the story again, as apparently they are handling the Snow Queen quest, where this is the only time I'll mention it, as it's kinda dull in all honesty. And again, you have to do specific things to do it, because I'll never do it, because I just don't care. It just feels out of place, and feels like it interrupts a more interesting plot than we're already on. In fact, the manga tries to fix this, and try to actually mix it into the main plot, and it kinda works, but I think by the fact of adding it makes it a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? Condensed? They made it less effective because it was a fine story, it just felt like it was again interrupting a good plot already. Though then again, the manga did do this pretty better because it actually did have the other characters being there, at least minimally, than nothing at all. In fact, I think they did a lot more with all the characters. Except Ayase, because no one likes Ayase.
Yeah, and now I gotta mention something that a lot of reviewers don't mention or kind of forget. Though it's not entirely their fault. The new game plots feature. Yeah, there is one for some reason, and it's baffling to call it one, as it sort of is, but it really isn't. But it does allow to make the Snow Queen quest a lot easier.
You see, I didn't mention an area, the Mccauley Ruins, or Mccauley, depends on how you pronounce it. This is where all the demons go after a time, so you can get spell cards from older demons who won't show up anymore. So yeah, it's very helpful for grinding since, again, that route is hard as nails, and I refuse to do it. So onward with the story. So after finding Maki, we found out that Nanjo had escaped from the police station as Mark and Brown were captured. So we gotta rescue them, but not before Maki awakens her persona, which... Wait, hold up.
Hold up. How does Maki have a persona? She wasn't playing the Persona game. Actually, how the hell did Kandori get a persona? Well, technically, that's not a full time. But you get my point, right? How did some of these people get personas? Am I just... I'll just throw my hands up in the air because I got nothing.
This part is only a little hard since you only have 3 team members, but the game does balance this out, so it's really not even a real hassle. But when you find Mark and Brown, you find out the cops who had them were demons all along. Was that in question? After beating them, we decide to figure out what's going on by going to the abandoned factory to find a secret passage, and I thought to myself, I had messed up on getting Reiji, but luckily didn't. But should be noted, if you're going for Reiji, you gotta do it before recruiting someone and getting to the Civic building. And bad part, it's a little hard, and since you are down a member, since the game is most likely thinking you're going to bring a fifth party member. And it did take me a while to pass through here. So after that, we find Kandori, and he's doing some evil shit, though I'm confused on how no one saw how evil he was. I mean, hell, the fucking Civic Group's logo is this. If that doesn't tell you they're evil, and also a big corporation, I don't know what will. But whatever, he sends out his minions and escaping behind a fucking massive wall thing without us noticing? Seriously, the hell? Well, in any case, he went downstairs to go to the Deva system that controls everything that's happening right now, who was made by this guy here, who regards everything and is sorry for it, so he decides to stop Kandori by using the system to destroy them both and destroy the system. Oh yeah, I need to mention this. This is where also another gameplay mechanic happens, the choices, but I'll quickly say it's pointless. The best way to answer it is to not be a dick. That's it. Just be good and... But regardless of your own choice, it doesn't matter, as a girl comes out of nowhere, stops the machine, and sends us off to a similar world that we lived in, but different than the one we live in now. We find everyone in regroup, finding that Yosuke... Hold on, how many times are there characters in this theory have that name? Technically, Yosuke and Yusuke... You know what I mean, same name. Whatever. Him and Shisato were sent here, but Shisato... God dang it, I don't know how to say her name tonight. So we then learn that Maki is here too, is a fake, well, more of a different version of her. Yeah, I'll get to that answer later, but go along with it. But that hardly matters as the school starts transforming to some godforsaken reason dungeon, as they need to proceed to find Reiji, who, if he did everything right, you'll get it.
Also stating here, I chose Reiji because simply put, I like his design and his persona. It just looks cool. It just looks cool, man.
You then gotta fight the small girl whose name's Zaki, who is working for Kendori for some reason, as she tries to kill us but fails and runs off. So after that, we get told to go upstairs and find a door that could possibly lead us out here. But it hardly matters right now. In fact, this won't come back until way later in the game, so at least it's not bothering to not have it. We then go to the Ayase shrine to just be Philemon again, but he just repeats information that we already most likely know and maybe add some things, but that's it. And to find the expulsion mirror to help fight a demon that is blocking the subway system for progression. So we get it, and learn someone is asking us to stop, who looks like Maki for some reason, but it hardly matters as we progress through the dungeon, and honestly, everything now feels really easy. But after this is where I got stuck. Quite literally, in fact. So after going through the subway, we actually go to another mall. Yeah, there's another one on the other side. I don't know why. We find out that we are actually stuck due to the power of the Harem Queen. As we explore the dungeon in the mall for some reason, because there was a dungeon in the mall, we find out it's actually controlled by Chisato, who's actually using a mirror to grant her every wish, but it puts a mole on her face every time. She then begins to diss on Maki and tell her they weren't even friends and was being a huge bitch to her by taking her crush, that being Yusuke, and took it for herself and doesn't even care about him. And then she just kicks us out for some reason. Yeah, if you want to know why, I wish I knew. I gotta talk about something else now, the personas. And I said earlier that how little I actually changed them, as most times they did their job and getting new ones was really hard to do. And I couldn't find new ones early on. Well, except some persona who are very broken. Like, wow broken. That being personas that can use Megiddo-line spells. See, this spell deals nuclear damage. This spell is rarely even able to be countered till a bit near the late game. Even then, it's usually only one type of enemy, so there's hardly any risk to losing to them. So you can usually spam the spell constantly, and depending on the persona you can equip, which can usually be anyone, depending on if the Arcana is more aligned to those characters, especially the World Arcana, which anyone can use, but it has its own issues, because usually the personas that have that ability are very glass cannon, as if they get hit by a spell, yeah, they're gonna go down hard, but that's not much of an issue either, since usually they're faster than most spells, so it's a little issue even regardless, but sometimes will cause a level gap. Yeah, XP is divided in the most oddest way possible, as it's divided by the fact of who did more. Meaning, if you did all the damage, then you get all the XP. And the others might get something, but it'll weigh barely anything to scrape by and will not help with whatever the level gap is. So in any case, after quickly going back and kicking her butt, and making her face herself and making her a good person again, doesn't really matter, as we just need to get to the mana castle now. But we are locked out by Aki again, doing her thing, and just making us have to find the other half of a compact. Since there's only one more place to check, since we haven't really gone there because the game tells us don't go there yet, we just gotta go to the forest, find Maki, or a kid version of her for some reason. She's basically scared to do anything, but we make her able to trust her with the compact, which we quickly then give to Kandori as it was the only way to progress. But it hardly matters, as we just progress through the dungeon like usual and we reach the top. We also find out that Reiji is Kandori's half-brother. Shocking, I know. I kind of thought it was more like he was Reiji's father, because I highly doubt that they are, because they very much look like separate age. Like, wow. But in any case, he shows us that he wants to become a god and change the world, yada yada yada. Yeah, if you're wondering why I'm kind of like going on this, it's just how it is. And basically he just fucks off and leaves another minion behind to try to kill us, but that never works as we just follow behind him and find out that everyone's under his control now. So after going through another dungeon, and finally, and I mean this, finally reach him, he seems kind of out of it. Like I'm done, I'll return everything to normal. And not just like, fuck you, dickweed. Why, I'll never know, but it hardly even matters. But we defeat him until his persona controls him and becomes this thing. In the OG English version, he was called Guido, and this thing is called Super Guido. I will say, the English version has its props. It has its benefits, is all I'm saying. So after another easy boss battle, yeah, kind of weird. I don't know why they are very easy. But also another weird thing, that later on in the series, killing someone is like this weird thing we're not okay with doing. Here, it's a fine. Aki begins to cry and tells us she's going to wake Pandora and kill everyone. Yeah, that kind of felt out of nowhere. Honestly, I was confused by this why didn't they bring her up or do anything in the meantime with this? Because the game never hints this is a thing, and when it comes up, it's like, okay? And that's the game's major issue. If you started to notice, like I said, I'm feeling very ambivalent to everything in the game. Because I am. I'm cared, but it's only in the sense of, I'm here and I might as well just try to do everything. And also my weird issue of getting invested in things really too easily. It's a fine story, it just puts in an odd spot that the characters' NPC dialogue, where you actually have to talk to them to see them grow and see that growth actually being there. So it's again important to understand that, since that's still the era of the time. But it was still lacking in that regard too. Honestly, it's why I was almost decided to bail on this, but I persisted onward and decided to finish this. See, Kandori did not end his thing there. Before he died, he actually told us something. That the Maki that we have right now is not a parallel version of her, it's just Maki, another self of her, that was born from the Davis system that created the other town. This essentially breaks her psyche and she just runs away, as we decided to help her ourselves by making sure we were good. Yeah. So we can still do the Sebek route. Because, yeah, there are a few choices in the game that will screw you over sometimes, but which is not really hard because there's only one choice you need to make sure you don't fuck up. So after entering Maki's mind again, we find her mother and go back to the forest to convince her to keep on living and fight Pandora. But you gotta get the last combat from the real Maki. This is where you can also get the final persona for everyone. However, you will most likely never use them since they are just too high. Seriously. By the time you'll actually reach that level, you'll most likely be at the final dungeon in and of itself. And I mean like the final part, like you're really at Maki or Pandora or whatever. These level caps are way too high and I'll never understand why. The last dungeon did cause me some issues, but I survived until I got to the boss battle where I got slaughtered. Yeah, that happened. It's especially hard if you kept the Megiddo personas, since again, she can just break most personas I was using at the time, and hell, the only reason Maki was fine because she was the healer, and so I put a healing persona on her. So I waited a long time just to deal chip damage to her until she died, and the day is saved. With all the characters going on their separate lives and all that whatnot, being all happy and whatnot. Yeah, that's it.
So, that was Persona 1. What did I think about it in the end? It's alright, but that's all it is. It suffers from too many flaws to be good, but it doesn't have enough issues to be truly awful. But that's why there's the manga.
The manga is the best way to actually see the story, since it not only condenses the story into a concise form, it actually also expands on some of the characters, including the main character, who I did think needed something to make him more interesting, which they did. So in any case, that's all. See you next time.